What's up, guys? Welcome to another video on this soggy Pacific Northwest day. A little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, and super cold. What are we doing here today? We are actually going to update my most popular video ever, a multi-layer approval. The way we do it has changed in Power Automate, and so I'm going to show you today the new way to do a 3-layer approval. Let's go. Alright, so I am now outside of the rain, at my desk, ready to jump into this multi-layer approval. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's do this. Okay, so first thing I want to show you is I am here at a SharePoint site that we have internal. I have an internal review process list. If you watched the previous approval video, this will look very familiar to you. You can see that I have some displaying fields here: project title, description, link to item, and the requester alias. If we take a look at my list settings, you can take a look here at what's powering each of these. You can see I actually also have some hidden fields for content approval, approval comments, approval date, design approval, comments date, requester approval, comments date. Okay? So with that, let's go ahead now and jump in and show you how to actually build a flow to use this. So we saw how we did it before. It has changed slightly, and there'll be a couple little speed bumps along the way, but if you stay with me, I promise we'll move past them and we'll set you up a successful approval. All right, so first thing to do is click on New and then Automated from blank. Go ahead and name this multi-layer approval, and the trigger we want is actually right here when an item is created in SharePoint. So we click on that and click Create, and off we go. Our trigger is set. It's going to ask us what site we would like to connect to. Luckily, it's pulling my sites here. If it's not pulling your site, you can actually go ahead and just click the Enter Custom Value here. You could go to your list, your site, grab your URL, and paste it in there. But mine is showing up, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and then I will select the list, Internal Review Process. Boom. So now when an item is created in the Internal Review Process list, we're going to do something. We are going to start an approval. And we're going to kick off a specific type of approval. We're not going to create an approval. We're not going to wait for an approval. We are going to start and wait for an approval. Okay? So choose that. Now, this gives us many types of options. We have the standard approvals here for approve and reject, where those are the given answers that we have, just two. Then you have custom responses. Let's say you want approve, reject, or standby, or yes, no, maybe, or on time, not on time, sometimes on time. Who knows? You can create a list of custom options to your heart extent, whatever you want them to be. But for us, we're just going to go ahead and choose this approve, reject, and choose the first to respond, okay? So that way, we know that we're going to send this to one person only, and that person needs to be the only person to respond to move this approval to the next place, okay? So now we want to go ahead and get descriptive in here. We want to make sure that when we send an approval, somebody doesn't have to actually like email us or Teams message us and ask us clarifying questions. We want to make sure that they have all the information they need right at their fingertips in the approval. So let's go ahead and customize this a little bit. So I went ahead and put new content request, because that's what this internal review list is for the team to review content. I'm going to go ahead and assign it to myself. That's just going to keep this nice and easy so I don't have to try and juggle different accounts and show you different mailboxes. I'll play all the parts in this approval to keep it nice and simple. Now, details. This is actually the body of the approval, like the email body. This is where you're going to go ahead and enter all of the relevant information. So let's go ahead and customize it. So I'm going to say a new request for content has been made by, and then I'm going to go down here, and I know that I requested their alias. So I'm going to go ahead and put requester alias right here. And then I'm going to jump down and say the project title And we'll go ahead and find project title. Project title is title. Okay. And then we'll put the project description as well. And there we go. And now we'll add a link. Link to item, and then the item link description will say, click to view the item. Okay? Now that approval is set. Okay? So now, for every approval we have, we also need a condition, because when an approval happens, we have approve and reject. And so that means these two things are going to route our flow in different ways. And so if we want to route our flow in different ways, we have to have something to do that for us. And the two things in flow that can route flows down separate paths, branch them out, are either one, a condition, or two, what we call a switch. And so for this, we're going to go ahead and do something I like to call stacking conditions. Okay? All right. So stacking conditions. So to stack them means we first need to have one. And so at some point we'll have several. So in our condition, what we're going to do here is we're going to choose a value. And that value is outcome, the outcome of the approval. And we're going to say if the outcome of the approval is equal to approve, because our options are approve or reject. So if the outcome is equal to approve, then we have branches. If it is, do these things. If it's not, do those other things. So what's the first thing we want to do if an item is approved? Well, we probably want to go ahead and notify the person who made the request and let them know, like, hey, congratulations, your item made it past content. So let's go ahead and send an email. Now, you could also post a Teams message. You could also send a text message. There's a lot of different ways you could communicate here. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it simple and what most people have access to and choose send an email. So I'm going to use the Office 365 Outlook connector, the send an email V2 action. And then it's going to go ahead and ask me, who do I want to send this to? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click into the to field and then click this button right here, add dynamic content. That's going to go ahead and pop out some options for me. It suggests some things to me that I think I might want, but then if I don't see what I want, I can click this see more button over here. And so I know that I put in a special field for requester alias, and so I'm going to go ahead and find that and use that. And the subject is, congrats, your item passed content. Okay? So from there, we say congrats, your item passed content, and then we'll just put a simple little note. Your item was approved by the content team with the following comments. Now, we're going to go over to the dynamic content section over here, and we're going to click on this responses comments. Okay, now watch what's going to happen when I click on this, okay? Boom, something happens. It takes and puts this apply to each box here. Now, I don't want you to worry about this, okay? What I want you to do is just leave it alone, all right? So what happened here is the responses, comments, dynamic content comes out in what is called an array. An array is a set of things. It can be one, could be 10, could be hundreds. But it is a group of things. And so what's happening here is Flow thinks that you're going to actually get several comments for this approval. And so what it's saying is for each of those comments, responses, we're going to send an email. Now, lucky for us, we're only going to get one comment per approval layer. So we don't even have to worry about this. We can just go ahead and close those up and leave them alone and not pay attention to them again, okay? So the next thing we want to do here now is actually add another action, and we're going to type in update item, because we're going to go ahead and update our SharePoint list with a status that this item went ahead and passed through the content approval, okay? So let's go ahead and look for update item in here, update file, update item, there it is. All right, and so now our site address, we're going to put in the same information that we used when we created the item. So process simple partners, list name is internal review process, and the ID should be supplied to us. Perfect. So we want to update the item from that we're actually triggered off of when it was created. So Flow is smart and supplies that to us. Yay. Now we want to go down here and look at content approval, okay? And so this is actually the status of the approval. And so we're going to go ahead and say, and type in the word approved. And then for the comments, we can go ahead and do this same thing and add the responses comments. It's going to drop it in and apply to each. Don't worry about that. And then for the approval date, we'll go ahead and add completion date right here. Okay? So now those things are done. Okay? We have our email that gets sent out. We have our item that gets updated. Perfect. Okay? So now we have to do these same things on the no side. So if it's rejected, we also want to send an email and say it's rejected. We also want to then update the item and say it's rejected. Now, in the past, if you watch the past video, in Flow, you would have seen that I would have had to go and remake each of these steps over and over and over to complete this. But now we have the beauty of copy and paste. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here. I'm going to say copy to my clipboard. I'm going to go over here and add an action. I'm going to click on my clipboard and I'm going to insert this apply to each. And so we can see here that the send an email went and actually got moved over to this side, okay? So now we just have to change up this language. We don't have to create this whole step again and do it all over. Let's just say, sorry, your item did not pass content. Okay, your item, and then we'll just change this. Your item was rejected by the content team with the following comments, okay? And now we'll do the same thing here. We're gonna copy our other apply to each. We're gonna add an action, and then we're gonna go to my clipboard, and we'll add the other apply to each, which now we can see contains our update item, which will open up, and we're gonna say rejected, okay? And so now, very quickly, we have completed one layer of our multi-layer approval. And now you're going to be amazed because with the beauty of copy and paste now, you're going to see how fast the rest of this flow is going to go, okay? So now what we're going to do is we are going to actually copy this approval step, add an action, go to my clipboard, we're going to start another approval, okay? And we're going to say new design request. We're going to say a new request for design review has been made by such and such. There's the project title, here's the project description, here's the link to the item, and some text, okay? And so now we have our next approval in place. Let's go ahead and then grab our condition. We're going to copy that, okay? We'll add another action here. We'll go to my clipboard and we build in the condition. Now, are you ready for this? This is my favorite part. So a condition comes with an if yes and if no field, right? So as soon as we open up this condition, here we go. So now we have to change this, okay? So we're looking at start and wait for an approval to now. And so we want to make sure that we're going to grab the outcome of start and wait for an approval to, not number one. So if the outcome is equal to approve, now we're going to do all of this again, okay? We're just going to customize. We're going to say, congrats, your item passed design. Your item was approved by the design team with the following comments, okay? And so now all we're doing is just customizing each of these steps, okay? So again, apply to each 5. Sorry, your item did not pass. This time it's design. Right? These are very simple updates we're making. And so now we want to go ahead and move these down, right? Because these are design. going to do this. Design approval, so wait for no comments. Okay, so responses, comments. What happened here? We got an apply to each inside of one. Let's start that one over really quick. We add the update item in again. Click SharePoint, update item. Connect to our site and our list. Add in our ID. Okay, now, design approval. Approved. Design approval comments. Again, now going to drop us in that apply to each. We're not worried about that. And then our approval date is our completion date. Okay, so now that's good. Let's look at our number 6. Okay, same thing. Let's see if this time we can get it to work. So let's cut it from there and paste it in there. Let's cut it from there, paste it there. If you notice, I have to click in these twice. It's trying to jump on me for some reason, so that's why it got messed up. So just do what I did, click twice there. Okay, so those are good. Okay, so now we have our if yes, and now let's go ahead and finish up our if no's. Okay, so this one's good. We can leave that alone. This one needs editing. Okay, good. And these are for design. Good. Okay, so our if yes and if no is good, and we can now go ahead onto our third approval. And so now we're not on design. Now we are on final approval request. Okay, so a request for final approval has been made by so-and-so. Here's the title and the description, and here's a link to the item. Okay, and so now we're going to do this exact same thing again. So we have that. Let's go ahead and grab our condition. We will copy it to the clipboard. We'll add an action. We go to my clipboard. We click on condition number 2. It then creates condition number 3 for us. So let's go ahead, delete out this last approval we don't need. And so we can see how we're layering, right? We have layer 1, start an approval and condition. Okay, awesome. If yes, send an email, update the item, start the next approval. Here's the next condition. If yes, send an email, update the item, start the next approval. And then here we are at our final condition, where this would be the final approver of the day. Okay, and so let's go ahead and just customize these one more time. Okay, so if this person says approve, congrats, your item has achieved final approval and is ready to share. Okay, and so we'll say your item was approved by the final approver with the following comments. Okay, we'll then go ahead and update our, okay, we're gonna grab this from here, click here again and put it in, cut this out, click, watch, it's gonna make me click again, put it in, and then click here again, it moves, click it again and paste. Okay, so now we have a requester approval comments and date. All right, and so now that side is good. Let's do our reject side. Sorry, your item did not pass. Final approval. All right, now just cut and paste these one more time. Remember this little trick, how it makes you click in the box 2 times. before you paste. All right. Okay, and so this is our multi-layer approval. We can see that we have 1, 2, 3 stacked conditions to go with our 3 approvals. This gives us 3 different layers, so content, design, and a final approval. You can see that I'm assigned to all 3, but in the real world, you would have 3 different people assigned to these things. You would probably want to customize your start and wait for approval action a little bit more, most likely, so that there was more detail at each layer. But let's go ahead and save the flow, and then let's test this guy out. And I'll perform the trigger action, so it's going to wait. I'm going to go here and say, all right, let's upload a new piece of content. So I have a talk called Floverload, and I'm going to go ahead and add the presentation deck here. The description is an introductory course to Power Automate. My alias. And then a link to the item. All right, so let's go over here. Let's get a link to Floverload. Copy the link, copy. I'll go over here to the, where is it? Okay, URL, and then display text, deck, click here. Okay, and that's all I need. All these are for the flow to update, and so we don't need to worry about those. Let's just go ahead and click save. Okay, so we can now see Floverload, the presentation deck is here. Let's go over to the flow. It says our flow is running. Here we go, and it's kicked off. So when an item is created, start and wait for approval number 1. If I go over here to my email inbox and I refresh, I should be getting an email any second now from Flow. And boom, there it is. Okay. So, pending approval, a new item has been uploaded for review by, oh, I didn't add my dynamic content in there. Dang it. Okay. So that's something we have to fix. And so I can click here to view the item. So let's go ahead and open it in a new tab and check that out. Okay, so we can see that it links to my material. I can go through it. Yeah, okay, awesome. It looks good. We'll go back to the mail and approve. Okay, so content looks solid. Okay, and then we submit. Okay, now we can see here, congrats. Your item has been approved by content. Please see the comments. Content looks solid. Okay, let's go back to the flow and see where it's at. Okay, so we see the flow is running. It's now waiting for an approval. So we can see here, a new request has been made by me. The project title is Floverload, the presentation deck. The project description is an introductory course to Power Automate. So if we want to go ahead and view the item, we can click it here, see that it's going to take us over to the deck. Awesome. If we go through it, yeah, this looks good. Content's pretty solid. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my email. I'm going to say approve, and I'm going to say content looks solid. Submit. Now, if I go back to the flow, we should see it hit the next step. Awesome. Condition met. Apply to each. Send an email. Apply to each. Update the item. So if we go and, I don't have that view on right now. But if we go back to the email, here we go. Congrats, your item passed content. Your item was approved by the content team with the following comments. Content looks solid. Okay, perfect. So now we should see that this approval is it's actually waiting on the next layer of approval. So I should have another email coming to me any minute now. There it is. So now I am the second person I am the design team. So you can see the first one was a new content request. Now you can see new design request. And so if I went to do the same thing, I could click to view the item, but we've already done that and we know that the design is impeccable. So let's go ahead and say design is so good. Submit that, baby. I'm going to get another email now as the requester saying, awesome, your item was approved by design. All right, so now if we go back to the flow, we can see we've passed that last approval. We're now into the last notification email, which we just saw, and now we're waiting for our final approval, which will then be for the final approver, whoever that may be. You know, in my case, it's like the marketing team or someone like that. All right, so email, here we go. Final approval request. It just came in. So same information to everybody. It's a good idea, actually, if you want to, when you are escalating these approvals, you can always add the comments from the previous levels as well. So then that way each new approver can see the comments of the previous approver. That can be helpful. So now let's go ahead and say, this is awesome. Take it to Ignite. It's ready to be presented. So now we click submit. And congrats, your item has achieved final approval and is ready to share. Okay, so we now have built in our comments, our updates, and our notification emails for a 3-layer approval. We have run it successfully and shown how very simply we can put this together to build in notifications, approval processes, and to just very simply keep a process like this moving. Now, if we go back to the list and we look at the settings here, you can see that I've done dates and also kept the comments and things. This is because if you want to actually take this to the next level and begin to like measure the amount of time between approvers, if you want to, you know, keep track of how well people commented or what they said about things, this is a great way to actually archive and measure a lot of this information. And so it's not just a simple approval, yes, no, moving through the stages. That's what we did today. But if you have this list and you have it set up just like I do, there's actually a lot more that can be done with it. You could build a Power BI dashboard on top of this to show how many things have been approved and how long they took to move between stages. You could create reports about who has done the most approving. You could create leaderboards even that encourage people to approve things faster by showing who are the fastest approvers in the company and then giving, you know, kudos to such things. So I hope that this multi-level approval gives you lots of ideas. I hope that we've brought you up to date with the current way to do it. It's a little bit tricky with the apply to eaches that get applied and everything compared to how it used to be, but it's a little bit more flexible and a little bit more powerful if you want to go into the advanced mode. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you today. All right, and so just like that, we built a 3-layer approval, and I showed you how to use the start and wait for an approval action now instead of the old way. So now you're all set to take this very helpful technique and go use it in your situations today. If you guys have any suggestions for what videos I should do next, go ahead and drop them in the description. Otherwise, you know what to do. Click like, click subscribe. Much love from me. I'll see you guys in the next one.